Female cop vanished in 1977 on patrol. 13 years later. They find this below an ocean cliff. In 1977, a young policewoman from a small coastal town in California vanished without a trace during her routine night patrol. Everyone assumed she had simply deserted her post and run away until 13 years later, when a fisherman discovered something horrifying at the base of a remote cliff. Her rusted patrol car emerged from the waves, and the evidence inside revealed a chilling truth about that night. A thick morning fog blanketed Pacifica, California in March 1990, clinging to the seaside cliffs like a shroud. Sergeant Jack Monroe had just poured his second cup of coffee at home when his radio crackled to life. Unit 23, this is dispatch. We have a 10:54 call at Devil's Slide. Fisherman reports a possible police vehicle at the bottom of the cliff. Request immediate response, March 1990. The fog clung low over Devil's Slide, that jagged cliff stretch of Highway 1, outside Pacifica, California. Below the churning gray Pacific, something glinted, a flash of chrome, long hidden beneath tides and time. A fisherman spotted it first, a rusted bumper jutting from the rocks like a shipwrecked ghost. When he called it in dispatch, only had one name left on the list of missing patrol vehicles. 13 years ago, Officer Laura Monroe vanished during her night patrol. Her car, her badge, her life gone. Rumors swirled that she'd run off cracked under pressure, left the job. Her husband, Sergeant Jack Monroe, never believed it. Now the ocean had given something back. Jack was pouring his second cup of coffee when the call came. Unit 23, 10:54 at Devil's Slide. Possible patrol vehicle, request immediate response. The cup hit the counter with a crack. Jack's blood ran cold. Laura. He was out the door in less than a minute, his hands white on the steering wheel. Detective Marie Estrada, already en route, briefed him on the radio. Old model patrol car, rusted out, likely hers. Jack knew before he saw it. The sea had held it all these years, until now. At the cliff's edge, officers stood silent. The Coast Guard had the wreck lifted out with cables and precision. A 1975 Plymouth Fury, nearly devoured by salt and barnacles, landed with a sickening thud on the overlook. The license plate barely legible, the VIN matched. It was Laura's. Jack stood stone still as the forensic team moved in. They pried open the door. No body, just shadows and rot, but there was blood, and under the driver's seat a brass shell casing. Marie placed a hand on Jack's shoulder. We'll get answers now. Then came Richard Hensley, the department supervisor. He'd been Laura's boss. Older now, thicker, but still full of command. He tried to dismiss it all. We don't know what this means yet. Could be anything. Maybe she panicked. Maybe something went wrong. Jack's voice cut through. She didn't run. She didn't crack. Forensics confirmed .40 caliber casing department issue. Blood in the trunk. No dash cam recovered corrosion, likely destroyed it. But this was a crime scene. The media descended. Cameras swarmed. Reporters hurled questions. Jack faced them jaw tight. Laura Monroe was a dedicated officer. She did not abandon her post. We will find the truth. Later, in the quiet of his home office, Jack opened the box he'd kept for 13 years. Her personnel file, logbooks, statements. November 18, 1977. Last entry 8:15 p.m. Routine traffic stop, mile marker 42, then nothing. Her partner that night, Officer Patricia Riss, had seen her last at 8 Zoriro. Laura was upbeat, looking forward to a late movie. One civilian reported a patrol car at Devil's Slide. Couldn't confirm it was hers. Jack's finger hovered over the duty roster. Another name stood out. Deputy Carl Bowen, night shift supervisor. He'd signed off on Laura's logbook. He called Marie. Find Bowen. I need to talk to him. She promised to pull records, but Jack didn't wait. He drove to mile marker 42. The wind howled off the cliffs, and the ocean was a grim, endless thing. Then a patrol car pulled up. Carl Bowen, older, grayer. San Mateo County uniform now. They exchanged words, polite, guarded. "You signed her log that night," Jack said. Everything looked normal. "Been a long time," Bowen replied, brushing off the past. Jack watched him go, unease curdling in his gut. Back at the station, the pieces started falling into place. Marie unearthed misfiled records, a witness statement from that same night. A woman, Belinda Carlson, claimed she saw Laura pull over a white van. Later, she saw the same van leaving San Pedro Valley Park, but her official statement said otherwise. Saw nothing unusual. Two versions. One hidden in a burglary file. Why hide it? Jack and Marie found her. She was older now, worn down. At first she resisted, then she broke. "Richard Hensley paid me, said my statement was too confusing. He gave me cash, threatened my job." Jack stared at her. "Why come clean now? Because you're asking," she said. "Because I'm tired of the lies." Marie glanced at Jack. "We've got a lead." And they had something else. Belinda's statement had mentioned a dented white van. Jack remembered what Bowen had said earlier. "I'm patrolling the San Pedro area today. Same park, same place." They headed out. Near the old ranger station, they saw Bowen's patrol car, and parked beside it a department sedan. Richard Hensley. Jack's hands clenched. Marie pulled the car into cover. Through the trees they watched. Two men, one with a shovel, one with a heavy bag. They moved toward the forest trail. Jack and Marie followed. From the brush they saw Bowen dig. Deep. Quick. Hensley hovered, agitated. When Bowen opened the crate, a sick weight settled in Jack's stomach. Bones. Tattered cloth. Laura. The forest swallowed her 13 years ago, but now truth clawed its way back. Jack's whisper cracked the silence. "She's been here, all this time." They backed away, breath shallow, purpose clear. This wasn't just about Laura. This was the first crack in something far darker, and they were going to blow it wide open. Jack's mind churned as they pulled away from the trailhead. The image of Laura's remains, hastily buried and carelessly exhumed, clawed at his every thought. Marie drove in silence, knuckles white on the wheel. "We need backup," she finally said. "Not just local. We need people we trust." They radioed it in. Within an hour, a tactical team arrived under cover of dusk. They retrieved the remains and secured the area. Jack stood over the shallow grave one last time. "We found her, Laura," he whispered. "You didn't disappear. They tried to erase you, but not anymore." At the precinct, Marie worked the phones, building a case. Jack compiled every report, statement, and file. They reconstructed the night piece by piece, the traffic stop, the van, the cover-up. Belinda's testimony was key, but wouldn't be enough. So Jack returned to the files. One detail gnawed at him: the van. Belinda said it had a crescent-shaped dent. Unmistakable. He scoured old impound logs. One entry matched. A white Ford van impounded in late '77 for expired tags. Location near Moss Landing. Jack and Marie drove out. The vehicle was long gone, but the entry included a name: Samuel Vega, a minor trafficker, low-level, disposable. They found him in a halfway house in Santa Cruz, dried out but lucid. When Jack showed him Laura's photo, Vega paled. "Yeah, I remember her. She stopped our van that night. She was calm, professional. But my buddy in the passenger seat, Tony," he panicked. "Tony," Marie asked. "Tony Calvetti. He was twitchy. Always carried a piece. He shot her. I didn't know he was going to do it." Jack felt the room shrink. "We left her bleeding," Vega continued. "Called the guy we worked for. Said he'd handle it. A cop. Older guy. Showed up with another officer. Told us to disappear. Richard Hensley." Jack and Marie leaned back, the pieces clicking into place. Laura had stumbled into a pipeline, drugs, trafficking, and dirty cops, and Hensley had been their protector. The district attorney's office agreed to move fast. A warrant was issued. Hensley was arrested in his office, still pretending nothing had changed. Bowen was taken into custody outside his home. Belinda was brought in to testify formally. She clutched her statement like a shield. "I was scared," she said, "but I won't be silent anymore." The next break came from forensics. Despite the years, underwater partial DNA from the blood in the car matched Laura's family profile. The .40 caliber casing matched department issue. The rope fibers in the trunk, same make as those used in park maintenance tied to Bowen Station. Then something unexpected, a technician found something metallic inside one of the remains. It was Laura's necklace, the one Jack had given her on their anniversary. Jack and Laura forever. Jack held it in gloved hands. The weight of it broke him. "She wore this every day," he whispered. By week's end, charges were filed: homicide, obstruction of justice, conspiracy. More names surfaced, more officers implicated. The rot was deeper than Jack feared, but something else emerged. Financial records showed hush payments from an off-the-books fund, used to silence witnesses, buy evidence, and bribe officials. The operation wasn't just criminal, it was systemic. At the next press conference, Jack stood beside Marie. "My wife died doing her job," he said, "and the people she trusted betrayed her. We've pulled back the curtain, and we won't stop until every thread is unraveled." Laura's name was cleared, her file marked with honor, but Jack couldn't rest. There were more shadows to chase. The Pacifica Police Department buzzed with a chaotic energy Jack hadn't felt in years. The past week had unearthed decades of deceit, arrests, raids, confessions, but the deeper they dug, the more twisted the roots became. Jack stood in the evidence room, staring at a wall of mugshots, officers in uniform, now reduced to case files. Among them Tony Calvetti, the man who pulled the trigger, dead since '89, overdose. But his actions had echoed far beyond that single night. Marie entered holding a sealed folder. Financial Crimes just sent this. The slush fund that paid off witnesses, it was tied to a community development grant. Hensley laundered it through city contracts. Jack took the file, thumbing through the numbers. So public money paid for silence. "And funded their meth lab," she added grimly. Back in the interrogation room, Hensley remained defiant. "You think cleaning house fixes this? The system protected us because it needed us. No one wants to believe how deep it goes. But we're going to show them," Marie responded. "Every dollar, every signature." The next morning brought a new twist. The DOJ sent federal agents to review the case. The scope of corruption crossed county lines. A task force was formed, and Jack reluctantly was named liaison. "It's not justice yet," he told Marie, "but it's a start." A media firestorm followed. Laura's name was cleared. Her grave, once unknown, now had flowers. Citizens gathered in candlelight vigils, for Laura, for truth, for change. Marie found Jack at the memorial wall. "There's something else," she said, handing him a cassette tape. "Found in the archives. Dated 2 days before Laura disappeared. Her last voice memo." Jack's hands trembled as he played it. Patrols seem routine, but something's off. Hensley's been assigning solo routes near Moss Landing, not protocol. "I'll keep my eyes open." A pause. Then, "If anything happens to me, Jack, don't stop asking questions." The tape ended. Silence pressed in. She knew Jack whispered. She knew they were watching her. By the end of the month, 6 more officers were indicted. The meth ring was dismantled. Victims rescued from the facility testified, confirming the years of abuse and trafficking. Their stories broke hearts and opened eyes. Jack testified before a federal oversight committee. He spoke of duty, betrayal, and the cost of silence. "The badge is a promise," he said. "Laura upheld it. They destroyed it. We owe it to her, to all of them, to rebuild it." Legislation followed: mandatory transparency for internal affairs, funding for witness protection, and limits on auto pen use in field offices. They called it the Monroe Reforms. On the anniversary of Laura's death, Jack stood alone at the edge of Devil's Slide. The sea roared beneath him, indifferent and eternal. He held her necklace, cleaned, restored, shining. "I kept my promise," he said softly. A breeze rustled the grass. Somewhere he hoped she heard. Spring in Pacifica was usually a quiet affair. Misty mornings, blooming jasmine along backyards, and ocean wind curling through eucalyptus trees. But in 1990, the calm was a veneer. Beneath it, a reckoning brewed. After Jack's federal testimony, the task force doubled its efforts. Every file was re-examined, every statement re-interviewed. A dozen additional officers came under scrutiny, some quietly resigning, others lawyering up. Public opinion turned sharply. Faith in law enforcement teetered. Marie, now coordinating victim outreach, visited Pacifica General Hospital daily. She brought coffee notepads, translators, whatever the survivors needed to talk. One young woman, barely 20, finally spoke. "The cops who brought us in, they knew. One of them laughed when I asked for help." Marie nodded, pen steady. "Can you describe him?" She could. It was a name they knew. Jack, meanwhile, stayed on the investigation, tracing financial trails. Shell companies, disguised payments. He followed a paper trail to a warehouse in Stockton, a supposed logistics firm. The feds raided it. Inside they found more drugs, more ledgers, more evidence, and another name. Deputy Chief Wallace, Pacifica's golden boy. Retired 3 years prior, now living in Tahoe. Jack and 2 agents drove north. Wallace answered the door in a fishing vest, pretending confusion. But the arrest warrant clarified everything. In the trunk of his SUV, they found boxes of burner phones, falsified reports, and a single cassette labeled Monroe. Back at HQ, Jack played it. Wallace's voice, angry, slurred. "She's asking too many questions, Rich. Bowen's not handling it. She needs to disappear." That night, Jack sat alone in Laura's old patrol unit, now cleaned, restored. He ran his fingers over the dash. "You fought for the truth, Laura. We're almost there." The next day brought trial prep. Hensley's arraignment loomed. Bowen was already in solitary, uncooperative, but cracking. He requested a deal. Jack and Marie met with the prosecutor. "He'll testify. Says he didn't pull the trigger but helped cover it up." And he names names. Marie crossed her arms. "Names we can verify, yes. Including Wallace, including at least 2 sitting council members." It was bigger than anyone thought. The press exploded. Mayor Hutchins resigned. The city manager disappeared. The state attorney general opened an independent investigation. And yet Jack still couldn't sleep. He drove nightly past Devil's Slide, down Moss Landing Road through Sector 7, retracing Laura's last patrol, looking for something he missed. One evening, a light caught his eye, a flicker in an abandoned shack near the park boundary. He stopped, investigated. Inside, just rats and damp, but behind a false wall, a crate. Inside it, more files, surveillance, photos of Laura, reports tracking her movements. Someone had stalked her. He brought it to Marie. "They planned it longer than we thought. She was targeted." Marie placed her hand on his. "And we're going to prove it." The trial date was set, October 12th, Laura's birthday. Jack stood outside the courthouse, eyes closed, whispering, "Happy birthday, Laura. Time to finish this." The courtroom was packed. October 12th dawned crisp and gray, with early fog ghosting over the courthouse steps like a shroud. News vans lined the street. Protesters and supporters kept to opposite sidewalks, holding signs, whispering prayers, shouting truths. Jack sat in the front row, flanked by Marie and the families of victims. Across the aisle, the accused, Hensley, Bowen, Councilman Draper, Councilwoman Ellis, and Wallace, whose defiance had withered since Tahoe. All of them looking small in court-issued suits. The prosecution opened with the timeline, the discovery of the patrol car, the forensic evidence, the witness accounts. Then came the audio recordings. The courtroom fell to a breathless silence when Wallace's drunken voice played over the speakers. "She needs to disappear." Jack's knuckles tightened, but he stayed composed. Laura deserved that. Day 2 brought Bowen to the stand, pale, shaking. He recounted the night Laura died, how he found her wounded, conscious pleading. "She looked at me," Bowen said, voice breaking. "She knew who I was, trusted me." He wiped his eyes. Then Richard arrived, said she'd ruin everything. The jury watched in stunned silence. Bowen continued. "He pulled her from the car. Told me to block the road. When I came back, she was gone. He'd shot her. Said it was the only way." Jack wanted to rise to scream, but Marie's hand steadied him. "Let him speak," she whispered. Day 3. Financial evidence. The shell corporations, the drug trails, the city grants funneled into bribes and laundering, each document a nail in the coffin. Day 4. Victims testified. Women now rebuilding lives, voices shaking but firm. They told us the cops wouldn't help, because the cops were part of it. Marie's victim support work gave them the strength to appear. Jack watched with pride as they faced their abusers. Then came Belinda Carlson, nervous but resolute. "I lied. I was paid to. I'm not proud, but I'm done being afraid." When she described the white van, the envelope, the threats, Hensley's face paled. Defense counsel barely challenged her. Next, Jack took the stand. "I was her husband," he began, voice even. "And I was a cop. But when Laura vanished, they told me she ran away. For years I believed what I was told, not what I knew in my gut." He held up Laura's necklace, the heart they'd engraved together. "This was found with her remains. She didn't leave. She was silenced." The jury listened, some weeping. Jack continued. "This isn't just about one woman. It's about trust, duty, and those who betray both." The defense tried to paint the defendants as victims of circumstance caught in over their heads, but each attempt crumbled under evidence. The final day. Closing arguments. Marie stood with the prosecutor. They thought time would protect them, that silence would endure, but the tide changed. Truth found a way. Jury deliberation lasted just 2 days. Guilty on all counts: conspiracy, murder, trafficking, fraud. Hensley was sentenced to life without parole. Bowen, with his cooperation, received 30 years. Wallace and the council members, life sentences. Dozens of lesser players faced charges. Outside, the public cheered, but Jack stood quietly beneath the courthouse steps, staring at the sky. "Justice," he murmured. At last, Marie joined him. "There's still work, rebuilding the department, rewriting policies." He nodded. "We will." That evening at the Pacifica Memorial Park, a new plaque was unveiled. Sergeant Laura Monroe, 1949-1977. She stood for truth. We stand because of her. Jack placed her necklace beneath it. Wind whispered through the trees. She was home. Autumn settled over Pacifica with a hush. The trials were over, but the work was not. Marie met daily with internal affairs and new recruits, training, reviewing, repairing. The department was bruised, but not broken. They'd earned their scars. Jack took a leave of absence, not out of avoidance, but to heal. He returned to the places Laura once patrolled, walking Sector 7, revisiting old traffic stops, talking to residents who remembered her not for her end, but her kindness. He spent afternoons at the park where her memorial stood. Sometimes he spoke aloud, sometimes he sat in silence. One day a young officer approached, nervous, fresh academy graduate. "You're Sergeant Monroe." Jack nodded. "My mother. She was one of the women saved from the treatment facility. She told me about you, about Laura. I joined because of that." Jack smiled faintly. "Then she's still doing good." Elsewhere, reforms took root. The state mandated new oversight for narcotics divisions. Autopen authorizations required biometric safeguards. Witness protection laws tightened. The new police chief, a woman from Sacramento, made transparency her mantra. She invited community liaisons, launched a restorative justice program. The town watched, wary but hopeful. Marie, now a captain, championed survivor advocacy. Her unit expanded. They handled cold cases, reopened sealed files. Some ended in justice, some didn't, but they tried. One morning, Marie visited Jack. She brought a file. Belinda's charges were dropped, she said. Officially recognized as a coerced witness. She's applying to teach mechanics at the high school. Jack exhaled. Good. And there's more, Marie added, passing him a newspaper clipping. Pacifica recognized for law enforcement reform, it read. Below a picture of the new chief, Marie, and survivors at a town hall. Laura did that, Marie said quietly. Jack nodded, tears in his eyes. That weekend, Jack visited Laura's grave. He brought flowers, the ocean breeze soft in his hair. They remember, he whispered. They rebuild. You didn't fall for nothing. He looked skyward, the sun filtering through clouds. Rest, Laura. We carry the badge now. He stood in silence, then walked away, head high, heart steady. And the waves, ever faithful, whispered her name. Winter came soft over Pacifica, the ocean air crisp with promise. With each sunrise, the town continued to change. Not loudly, but persistently. The mural on Main Street now featured a new face, beside the firefighters and teachers. Laura Monroe, standing tall in uniform, her eyes painted with purpose. Jack visited the mural one morning with a cup of coffee and a quiet heart. Children walked past with their parents, asking who she was. Jack smiled. They knew her now. At City Hall, a new plaque was dedicated, in memory of the officers who gave all and the ones who never gave up. Marie spoke at the ceremony, her voice resolute. We uncovered rot, we tore it out, we faced the dark, and in doing so, we made space for the light. She gestured to the academy graduates seated before her. You are that light now, make it count. The crowd applauded, solemn and hopeful. Marie's initiatives expanded statewide. Other towns reached out seeking guidance on transparency, survivor services, community rebuilding. She traveled, consulted, and always came home. One rainy morning, Jack received a letter, handwritten. The return address, San Quentin State Prison, Bowen. He read it slowly. Bowen asked for nothing, just wrote about guilt, about nightmares, about Laura's eyes that night. I don't deserve peace, Bowen wrote, but maybe if I tell the truth enough times, someone else will find it. Jack folded the letter and placed it in the box marked Laura. No anger, just a memory stored. Belinda's mechanic class became popular. She kept her desk clear, save for a photo of her father and a tiny badge pin someone once gave her. On hard days, she touched it like a talisman. In spring, Pacifica hosted its first Justice Walk. Survivors marched alongside officers, families, children. Laura's name was printed on every T-shirt. Jack and Marie led the walk side by side, no speeches, just footsteps echoing down the boulevard. At the finish line, Jack paused. He turned to Marie. You think she'd be proud? Marie nodded. She'd be leading us. That night, the Pacific wind rose gentle over the hills. The stars blinked soft above the ocean. In the house Laura had once left for duty, Jack stood by the window, watching the moonlight drift across her photograph. Still watching over us, he whispered, and perhaps in the hush between waves, she answered. Years later, the fog returned, curling through Pacifica like a memory. Jack, now retired, rose with the sun and brewed his coffee in silence. His days were slower now, filled with long walks, volunteer hours at the local school, and weekend drives along Highway 1. But one morning, a familiar name surfaced in the local news. An old cold case, unrelated to Laura, had been reopened thanks to forensic methods first developed during her investigation. Marie had called it the Monroe Protocol. Jack chuckled when he read that. She'd never told him. At City Hall, a new statue was unveiled, a bronze figure of an officer standing firm against the wind, a tribute not to any one person, but to every voice that refused to stay silent. The inscription read, Truth stands even when buried. Jack attended the unveiling, seated quietly in the back row. Marie spotted him and smiled. Later, as the crowd dispersed, she approached. "You still walk Sector 7?" "Every morning," Jack replied. "Then you know," Marie said softly, "what she would have done if she'd had one more day." Jack nodded. "She'd have walked it again. Not for the badge, for the people." At the edge of town, the old docks had been converted into a public space. A plaque there bore Laura's name, alongside the words of a child she once helped. "She made me feel safe." Jack lingered there often, greeting joggers and young officers who stopped to ask about her. Each time he told the story not of how she died, but how she lived. And when he visited her grave, he no longer brought only flowers. He brought updates on reforms, on new recruits, on lives saved. In a world that still wrestled with shadows, Laura's light hadn't dimmed. It had scattered into dozens of others who'd risen, spoken, acted. Pacifica, once broken, now stood as a symbol, not of perfection, but of perseverance. And through every echo of the foghorns, her memory walked beside them,